Let's talk about the person who's maybe looking at non-for-profits.
Yeah.
They're not keen for the corporate world.
No.
They really just love the heart of giving to the community in a charitable way. How would someone best walk out the path to non-for-profit director? Is it that they start as a volunteer and they just work their way up? Do they go to school? Do they go to the private sector to cut their teeth a little bit before coming in?
Yeah. Are you talking about like they're right out of high school?
Sure.
So any educational classes, whether you're going to go get your associates or maybe you go for a business degree, needs to have foundational context, basic accounting, basic, maybe a creative writing or something, because you're going to do a lot of papers. You're going to talk with a lot of people on paper. Basic business management, because it does not matter if you're a great person, if you cannot run it well, your people will not be successful. That's just how it works. You look at really successful businesses, and if they can't manage what they have, well, they won't have anything to manage. So you don't need a 4-year degree, but it also depends on what industry you're in. Classes, courses, there's so many opportunities out there for technical, like BTC, or online courses in specific subjects, or you can kind of pick and choose. But if you can learn from educational classes, do as many as you can. Make sure that you're comfortable talking to people about whatever it is that you're about. And you have to be in it and invested so far that you're willing to do anything to succeed reasonably.
So, to use a word that I usually hate, there is still a hustle to it, though.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the nonprofit world. Because I think we talked about this, you need to be willing to clean the bathrooms, to take care of your front desk, to do a tour. Like, I'm obviously talking about museums, but depending on what you're in, you need to be willing to step in to do anything, because there's no waiting around for anybody else to do it. Most likely you're in the smaller side of the business world where you don't have a lot of extra people. And you can work your way up to bigger nonprofits. There are huge nonprofits. There's foundations, and obviously that they change very drastically, but it's very specific to what you're looking for. There's lots of availability. People will welcome you with open arms in nonprofit world if you want to be involved, but you got to make sure you know what you're going after.
Can you explore for us the difference between profit and non-for-profit, just as it is, whether it's leading, working them? What are some of the biggest differences?
A nonprofit usually has a tax deductible aspect to its foundational conditions. Okay. We take in a lot of donations. People give us when we do fundraising. The mission that we're involved with, the participation in giving back, is usually part of the nonprofit world. When you go into normal business, you're talking about a whole other set of tax defining revenue. So a lot of our nonprofit stuff is based on our programming, memberships, donations, fundraisers. Businesses are usually selling their service or their products. So the two are not speaking. Basically, they're talking two different languages. Money driven. Nonprofits can still make good money, but it's just in a different capacity.
Do you think the atmosphere between the two is different?
I think people make them different. They assume that nonprofits are hard up for cash and maybe not completely efficient with their budgets. When, in my opinion, from what I've seen, especially locally, that is not the case. They are on it. They are as efficient as possible so that they can make their dollar go further. Because ultimately, especially around here, we want our money to go back into the community. Mm-hmm. We do need it to survive. So we need to pay our employees. We need to pay business expenses. We might need to buy new equipment. We might need to do very essential things. But ultimately, our foundational of doing those things is to make money so that all the additional money can be put back into the people that we participate with locally.
I know Lynden specifically has got a very prominent Dutch population. I think that's kind of infected everyone else who's ever come in here.
In more ways than one. We have board members, so I feel like I can say this, where they always joke about, them being willing to actually spend the money. And there's, some joke that, they're too frugal but that's not really what my experience is when I hear true Dutchmen talk about it. It's that they want to be purposeful. They want their money to be purposeful. They don't want to be frugal or mindless about they're just throwing money out the window. They want it to be purposeful and impactful and to make sure that it does what it should be doing. It's not just mindlessly sitting there to do things that are not good.
They're not doing it strictly for the tax write-off.
That too. But I know some of the most generous people have been people of Dutch heritage that have been gracious enough to give to the museum. And some ask for a lot of information about where we are and how we're doing. Some ask for that to be put to specific projects. And some know us well enough that they trust us and know that we're going to be putting it to good use. And it's just part of the transparency thing.
Yeah. No, and if someone's hesitant, I shouldn't say hesitant, if someone's kind of guarding that information, that's just a bad sign in the first place.
Yeah. Guarding, it could be a bad sign that they're hiding something, or it could be almost a bad sign that they're maybe, what's the term? Not pleased with their progress, even.
Oh, sure. A little self-conscious.
Self-conscious that they're not doing as well as they should be. So it could be multiple things.
Yeah, it's just some of the personal sides of business, I guess.
Yes, it is.
So, last question then, and then we'll close out here. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into nonprofits and maybe they're eyeing up the position of director one day? What would you tell them?
Hard knocks. There are so many things that I would not have learned in a classroom. I did it by practical, hands-on job experience. And it was choosing to take my jobs growing up in ways that built on everything that I learned prior, schooling or otherwise. So if I worked in a retail job, I didn't work in a retail job again. I went and took whatever experience I had from that retail job, and maybe I went and worked in an office job. Worked in an office job. Now I'm going to see if I can go get administrative experience in the HR department. Okay, I did that. So building on that, I think, was the one most important thing that I ever did in going through school, going through my jobs, growing. Even after we started a family, it didn't matter. I chose to build on all my practical experience, making sure that whatever I was working on, I was bringing out something new with me, because otherwise I would have not have all the experience and all the different roles that I have now without doing that.
Always learning.
Yeah, that's right.